You're at a party, there's music, people laughing around you, glasses being raised, that buzz everyone seems to love. But you're there, observing everything from the outside. It's not that nobody wants to talk to you, it's not shyness. It's that while everyone is talking about the weekend, you're stuck on a question nobody asked. Why don't most people seem even a little interested in understanding how things really work? Or maybe it's 3 a.m. You should have been asleep for hours, but your mind won't shut down. It keeps spinning, analyzing, questioning, connecting dots nobody asked you to connect. And the next day, you feel alone again. Maybe you thought it was a problem with you, that there was something wrong with you, that if you could just be a little less deep, a little less questioning, a little less yourself, people would finally understand. But I'll tell you something nobody has ever told you. You're not alone because nobody wants you. You're alone because your brain operates at a frequency that few people tune into. And that difference isn't small. It's not a matter of being shy or introverted. It's much deeper than that. There's a phenomenon that few people talk about. Psychology calls it cognitive loneliness. And if you're here seeing this now, it's likely you've felt it for a long time without knowing it had a name. The London School of Economics conducted research that discovered something interesting. People with significantly higher IQs reported lower satisfaction with frequent socialization. This wasn't because they were worse at relating to others. It was because most conversations simply didn't reach the depth their brains demanded. Imagine trying to have a meaningful conversation through a glass. You're there. The other person is there. But there's a barrier that nobody can get through. It's not a flaw of yours. It's not a flaw of theirs. It's just a different frequency. But here's the part nobody told you. This isn't a trophy. It's not an advantage you should be grateful for having. It's a cost. A real cost. A form of pain that society doesn't recognize because it's invisible. If you've recognized yourself in these words so far, subscribe to the channel. What comes next is for you. Let me tell you about the wounds you carry. Maybe you haven't talked about them with anyone yet, but they're there. It started when you were a child. You asked questions that others didn't ask. Questions about why things were the way they were and not another way. Your parents, your teachers, your classmates, everyone seemed annoyed by it. It wasn't normal to ask so many questions. It wasn't normal to be interested in the things you were interested in. Then you heard many times that word, strange, or worse. You heard that you were arrogant, that you were trying to show off, that nobody likes someone who knows everything. And there, at that moment, something broke inside you. You learned that being who you were provoked rejection. Then the masking began. In adolescence, you became very good at pretending. Pretending you didn't know. Pretending that that banal joke was hilarious when you knew exactly why it wasn't. Pretending that that superficial conversation was enough when every cell in your body screamed for depth. You laughed when you should have smiled. You smiled when you should have cried. And nobody ever asked if you were okay with that. Because in the end, you seem normal. And nobody sees the cost of seeming normal when you're not. Now you're an adult. And things have gotten worse in a way you may not have expected. Relationships start promisingly. Someone sees you, you open up. And at first it seems like someone finally understands you. But then comes the first argument about something that matters. You try to explain a more complex, more nuanced point of view. The other person gets defensive. Or worse, they get bored. They don't want to explore the idea. They just want to be right. And at that moment, you feel the isolation begin again. You sabotage it without realizing it. Because talking about superficial things is like breathing underwater for you. It works for a while, but eventually you drown. So you give up before you even try, because you already know how it will end. And then there's the mind that never sleeps. That thought at 3 in the morning isn't poetic. It's not inspiring. It's exhausting. It's you trapped in an analytical loop you can't break. Your brain connects patterns that nobody asked it to connect. It sees consequences 5 steps ahead. It questions its own issues. And while everyone else sleeps, you're awake, tired, and completely alone with it. No one ever explained to you that this was a cost. And if all of this is hitting you hard right now, leave a comment. Just one word. Anything. So I know this message reached someone who really needs to hear it. Now comes the part that changes everything. And I need you to listen to this carefully. Intelligence is not a curse. Let me repeat this because it's important. Intelligence is not a curse. The curse is trying to live as if you weren't intelligent. It's spending your life trying to fit a high-resolution brain into environments built for people operating in standard definition. It's like putting a Formula One engine on a bicycle. The problem isn't the engine. The problem is the vehicle you're trying to put it on. You've spent decades trying to slow down, trying to think less, trying to be less yourself. And every time you did that, you felt more alone, because you were abandoning yourself. You were apologizing for having the mind you have. I'm talking to the person who has ever said, "Sorry, I thought a lot about that," in a conversation. To the person who softens their ideas because they're afraid of seeming condescending. To the person who has ever given up an intellectual passion because no one around them understood it. That's not humility. That's self-betrayal. And today could be the day you stop this. Because here's the truth. No one told you. When you accept how your mind works, everything changes. Not overnight, but it changes. You stop apologizing for your depth. It ceases to be a weakness to be hidden, and simply becomes who you are. You begin to understand that loneliness isn't always a sentence. Sometimes it's a tool. The loneliness of choice, when you're doing something that matters, is completely different from the loneliness of rejection. One nourishes you, the other consumes you. You stop seeking an audience and start seeking peers. And that's a radical change, because when you stop trying to convince other people to like you and start looking for people who already understand, everything becomes easier. Those rare moments when you find someone who thinks like you, who wants to explore ideas the way you do, who doesn't need an explanation for why you're thinking about existential philosophy at 3 in the morning. Those moments become sacred. Because you finally stopped wasting energy trying to transform incompatibility into compatibility. And perhaps the most important part, you embrace not knowing. You begin to understand that admitting you don't know is the opposite of weakness. It's freedom. It's courage. Because very intelligent people have a special problem. They think they need to have answers. They need to understand everything. They need to be capable. And when they discover they can't, they feel ashamed. But not knowing is where all the interesting things happen. It's where curiosity turns forward again, not backward. When you stop pretending to know and start genuinely exploring, you discover you're not as alone as you thought. There are other people on this path. People who think like you, people who ask questions like you. If all of this makes sense now, give it a like. Because this video is made for people who finally want to stop hiding. So here we are, at the end of this conversation that began with you at a party feeling lonely, or lying in bed at 3 in the morning with your mind racing. And I want to leave you with one last thing, a question you'll carry with you for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, maybe much longer than that. You've spent your whole life trying to be less alone by trying to be more like other people, by trying to think less deeply, by trying to like the same things, by trying to fit in. And the less you were yourself, the more alone you felt. So let me ask you a different question. What if the problem wasn't you? What if the problem was the entire direction you were looking? Maybe you don't need more people in your life. Maybe you don't need more relationships, more friends, more followers, more validation from the outside. Maybe you just need one person who finally understands how your mind works. A person who isn't afraid of your depth. A person who sees your cognitive loneliness not as a flaw, but as the signature of how you were made. And that person already exists. They're inside you, waiting since that day you learned you were weird, for you to finally turn around and say hello back, for you to accept yourself, for you to stop apologizing. And when you do that, when you truly do that, something changes. The right people start to show up. because you stopped sending the signal of, "Please reject me if I'm not your type." You started sending the signal of, "I'm okay with myself." And brilliant people are drawn to other brilliant people who accept themselves. You don't need to change, you just need to stop hiding. There's a video playing on your screen now. It's a continuation of this conversation. It's for those who recognize the pain I spoke of. For those who thought, "How did he know that about me?" Watch it, because this journey that began here doesn't end in loneliness. It ends in finally coming home. Come back here when you need to remember this, because people like you need spaces where they can be completely themselves. And this is one of those spaces.